Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan, what is hyperconscious?
Once you understand why something is the way that it is, now you have the power to change it. Great conversations with great people and great questions are the keys to the kingdom of unlocking your consciousness.
Every single action that you do starts as a thought. When you control the way you think, you will control the way you act, and you will control the way you live. That is hyperconscious. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. Alan and I were lucky enough to sit down with another guest all the way from Australia, Mr. Harvey Hooke. Aussie. He is a next-level relationship coach. He is the host of the Honest Modern Dating Podcast. He added so much value, and he absolutely took control of this podcast, brought us through a 20-minute guided meditation, and definitely got us to be super, super vulnerable.
This was the most interesting and intriguing episode for me. I went, definitely take this journey with us. The guided meditation, if you're in a car, obviously pause it, wait, because you're going to want to close your eyes and really meditate with us. It's just breathing deeply and him guiding us and then asking the right questions. And I was super vulnerable, and even just saying that, I'm coming back to that moment. This is an exploration of the mind, and that's powerful shit. And I think if you join us, you're going to feel what we felt.
Yeah, when we say going hyperconscious, this episode is a great example of that. Alan and I had our eyes closed for 15 minutes, and we were just looking within ourselves that whole time. And that's what being hyperconscious is. It doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it's super hard, but most things that are worth it are hard. So I guarantee if you guys go through this with us, you will take something from it. And this is a next level episode, and we hope you guys enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Bye. No. Geographically? Geographically. This is cool. So I would say make sure that pretty face is showing.
Yes, true.
They're going to want to see that thing. They're going to want to see that thing, Alan. That face. You good?
Ready?
Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We have another guest all the way from Australia today, Mr. Harvey Hooke. He is the host of the Honest Modern Dating Podcast, and he has a pretty legit Instagram name, @GetHimHooked. I dig that very much. Harvey, how are you doing this morning?
I am doing extremely well, and I do love your enthusiasm for how you started. That's the same way I'm like, welcome to the modern dating podcast or whatever I call it. Yeah, so I do. I just commenting on how I like the way you introduce it. I'm doing really well. I've been up since 6 a.m. with coaching calls, gone for a couple runs. I'm pretty wired and excited to talk to you guys. Actually, we
love to hear that. So there's always a story behind how we end up getting the kind of guest or the actual certain guest that we get on. And after one of our latest episodes, Alan and I were sitting there and saying, we should really have a relationship expert on. And then I'll let Alan finish the story because he knows more about it.
So you followed me, I believe, and I checked out your content. And by the way, I have a few of your Instagram posts up in front of me on my laptop. I think your content is awesome, man, because it's really, really well done. It's really professional, and it's really thought-provoking. And this podcast, obviously the Hyperconscious Podcast, it's all about figuring out how you're thinking and how you can make shifts to change your behaviors. And your content, if nothing else, so we have your Instagram handle right here, @GetHimHooked, right behind us on the video here.
Yeah.
And anyone who's listening right now, check him out. Check out his Instagram because it's very thought-provoking content. And anything that's going to get people thinking differently, stirring the pot is going to be super important. So, and then I reached out to you, and you basically said, this is not a coincidence. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's not. And you know what? Those exact two posts that you shared, they were, weirdly enough, again, very synchronistically, I had some, I'm all about listening to your own self and putting your own thoughts first, right? And I'd gone against my own wisdom and my own advice and listened to other people when it came to certain things like sales and stuff like that. And that day was the day I woke up and I was like, no, fuck it. I'm going to be more me than ever before. And those 2 posts were the ones that you shared with me. You were like, yeah, these ones. I like these ones. Those were the 2 posts that I started off with going, nah, fuck everyone else. I'm just going to do it my way. And if it doesn't work, I don't give a shit. Because then you listen to people like, you could make more sales doing this. I'm like, yeah, but I'm doing fine. Like, it's going great. Like, fuck you guys. And then you listen and whatever. And then you go in this full circle only to realize like the hero's journey, only to come back to where you were and you were completely okay with how things were. And so I'd put more, I guess, of myself in those posts. And for me, that's why I'm like, oh, this makes perfect sense why you guys reached out and you shared those posts to me. And it was like, oh, I'm thinking, yeah, this makes sense. And then to kind of realize that that's where you guys were at as well, with your relationships, where you kind of, and especially with the podcast, you're like, yeah, we should have this. It's like, to me, there's always weirdly synchronistic stiff stuff going on. Like, I guess I've trained my mind to look for it, and I like to think that it just happens like that. And it does start with your thoughts and your beliefs and stuff like that. And with the same thing you were talking about before with the whole thought-provoking Instagram, yeah, that's what it's there for.
I reached out to you and you immediately, I love how you asked me for feedback on like which posts resonated most, because that's awesome for you to know. And you mentioned these posts and I have one up in front of me and this is the one that I showed Kevin. And as soon as I showed it to him, he was like, yes, let's do it. And Kevin and I just did a core values episode last week that we basically dissected our primary core values and what we want to become in order to attract who we are. And so let me just read this for the listeners real quick. It's called, at the upper left-hand corner, it has vibe in all capitals. We've called it vibration. We've called it emotion. We can call it vibe. Your vibe is what gets people attracted to you. Physical looks only get you so far. You can take a person who is the most attractive person in the entire world, and if they don't think they are good or are in a place of fear, it will be written all over their face. Worse yet, it will expand to a point where they just push other people away. This is why your relationship with your inner being is the most important thing you can ever develop. If you're not okay with who you are, that's the first thing to work on. Relationships will come as a result.
Love it.
So that's the one that I sent to Kevin. That's the one that attracted us to you, and that is why we are here. So I hope the listeners took a lot from that. And if there's anything you want to expand on with that post, let us know.
I really want to expand on the fact that when you read it out loud, I'm like, man, that's good. I'm not trying to like blow smoke up my own ass, but what I'm trying to say here is, it's like the way you expressed it, I'm like, oh man, that's really, like, I think you have a great expressing voice for this kind of stuff.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, fuck, man. So that is about most people trying to figure out. It's a number of things actually, and since then I've kind of gone deep. Hello,
we're still here.
Yeah. Okay. So
not great.
Hey Harvey, can you just throw it on Can you throw it on speakerphone real quick?
Hello, speakerphone.
Yeah, let's try that, and then just put it on the table and then leave it, because I think when you're moving it, it's just it's getting a little fuzzy. That's all.
So with FaceTime audio, if you move at all,
I wasn't moving.
Oh, you weren't. Because for some reason it's cutting out quite a bit, but no worries, because we can cut this out of the audio, so it's not a problem. But yeah, let's try speakerphone, see how that goes.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so the big thing. Okay, I'm just going to continue. Whatever, you guys can smash it together.
Yeah, perfect.
The whole big thing with vibe is that I guess through all my time, what I've become very aware of is, and I like to call it vibration first and foremost, because it's kind of like a radio station. It's like your emotional vibration, meaning the tune that you're listening to, so to speak, like the emotional state that you're in, will often be, like, for example, the radio station that you listen to. If you listen to sad music, like you listen to the shit radio station, you get shit music and all this kind of stuff as consequence. If you tune yourself to be happy, what you'll find is you'll get happy people, happy relationships, and it'll come as a result. The reason why I say this kind of stuff is honestly because, how do I say this? The reason why I share this is because most people don't necessarily tend to that element. But since then, I've kind of gone a lot deeper with stuff. And this is why I'm really excited to be on this podcast, because you guys are going to be one of the first people that I'm sharing this with, is that to me, what I've discovered even more, it was about identity.
Yes.
It's like you guys talked about mindset, right?
Yeah.
You guys spoke about the mindset and all this kind of stuff. But what I found like for example, you guys work out.
Oh yeah, once or twice.
Just maybe. Just maybe.
At least once.
Yeah, just you've done it once, right?
Yeah.
I would argue that maybe it's part of who you are right now.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Big part of our identity, for sure.
Yeah, identity, right? So if I was to say, hey, if you can't work out for the next 2 months, how'd you feel?
Not happening.
Yeah, not happening.
Yeah, exactly. It's right. It's not even happening. It's just completely like I'm insane for even saying that.
Yep, that would be a huge identity shift, and that would be emotionally devastating. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So what I found works really fucking profoundly well is that identity shift. So now when I'm coaching people, I pretty much target people's identity straight away. But when it comes to vibe, that's a great way of looking for evidence, so to speak. Like, for example, you mentioned that in the post. That's why I'm like trying to figure out what I haven't said. But like I've had a coaching call, for example, where I've had honest to God, this has happened almost every single time where I've done a video coaching call and I've looked at the person's face and that person has almost like a skull-like nature to their face. There are these little fucking tiny micro muscles that I swear to God that I've noticed that you can't necessarily affect, that will, like that'll furrow your eyebrows a little bit too much, or that'll open your eyes a little bit too much, or a little bit whatever, or tilt your mouth in a certain way. And so that's why I said, like, your emotions are written on your face. So I've had a client, for example, in one call, she was very skull-like at the start. And then at the end of the call, because I got her in a really amazing vibe, happy, feeling, beautiful place, at the end, she just looked radiant. I was like, man, if you walk out now, people are going to come talk to you. You'll be fine.
Very true. Interesting.
I've also had another very interesting situation where I've had, again, it's a female client, where she actually took photos before and after of working with me. And you could literally see, like, her hair was different. The way she smiled was different. She even took in the middle photo. Like, it was just very interesting to see the differences on people's physical appearance. Because you guys work out, right?
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, I love saying that. You guys are like, yeah, we work out.
That was Alan.
Like,
that was Alan for the
again.
record.
Yeah. Is it been established yet? I have no fucking clue. Pilates, right? No. But this really is about your identity with yourself when it comes to relationships and how you come across. So first and foremost, if we were working together, if I was doing a proper coaching call, what I would do is to get you the part of you that already has this handled. Because you guys are self-actualizer, right?
Yes,
you guys
absolutely.
are self-actualizers.
Self-actualizers for sure.
Yeah, self-actualizers. I'm here to be the coach. This is why I almost like the stuff that I say pretty much just shits on what other people say. Not in terms of like my stuff's better than yours, but I completely go against the grain to come here to say that you're already self-actualized.
Yeah. Inside, you mean? Like there's a part of you that is?
Yes. Like how do I say this? That there are parts of you, there are deeper parts of you that already know that, all right, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to do. This is my potential. Okay. They've even done studies on the brain that when people make decisions, they often make decisions very quickly. And the reason why they take so goddamn long to figure it out is because we're figuring that out. So what I've discovered is that basically when it comes to people, that obviously through trial and error, you guys probably went through a phase where you're working out, you didn't like it, right? You didn't like it. You didn't like not working out, or you didn't like your body, and so you decided, no, this is who I am. This is what I'm going to be.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So when it comes to relationships, that's almost the first step. Like, you got to go in a place of contrast where you don't necessarily like where you are, which I'm feeling that's sort of where things are, or at least that's where you've at least been in the past, which is why now we're talking.
Yes, absolutely.
But to really create an amazing shift, we have to make it normal for you. It's not something that you do. It's something that you are. In the same way that working out is not something that you do, you guys are just fit people. It's an extension of who you are, that you guys exercise and all this kind of stuff, because it's, in my opinion, and this is the way I view it at least, in my crazy, crazy opinion, that it's like you worked out, you formed your identity that you guys are exercises, and now that's what you guys do. You work out, you lift, you all do that, all that kind of stuff. But I've also noticed that there's an inverse effect. that if you work on someone's identity, how they view themselves, they'll make a drastic, profound shift, and they'll naturally be attracted to the things that need them to make that change. One example was I had a coaching call with a guy this morning, man who's been through divorce, and he's a very quiet. He described himself as like the nice guy, and everyone always says nice guys finish last and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
But here's the bullshit that the people don't realize. Then all these sudden people don't necessarily trust themselves, and so then they try and learn other tactics that people give them, right? Here's why I'm not telling you like say this and do that and all this kind of stuff, because that stuff is irrelevant. It's down to the person. It's down to the situation. I'm a guy who also coaches other dating coaches for women. I mean, coaching. I have a client who is a dating coach for men who teaches guys how to talk to girls. Right?
Interesting. Okay.
And the thing is, I'm helping him get to that next level with his relationships, and I don't tell him what to do. But when you get people in the right state, the right feeling, right, the answer becomes very self-evident. This is what we call, if you have a pen and paper, or anyone listening to this, write it down. Fucking inspired action.
It's inspired action. So we've been writing this whole time, by the way. Just keep going, because I'm
glad. I'm just gonna keep writing instead of talking. Yeah.
This identity stuff is super fascinating to me. I had a drastic shift in my life after a car accident, and I was also jumped by a schizophrenic 3.5 years ago. And I started really looking into my identity, like who am I today, not who was I 10 years ago, and why am I acting? Why have I instilled the same habits from 10 years ago when I'm a new person today? And I kind of redecided who I'm going to be, and I have a bunch of I am prayers and all that. But this identity stuff, I just want you to know, is super powerful for the listeners and for us. So what is it that you do? You said you go to identity first. So what you do is you get them into a state where they take inspired action. How do you get them there?
Through deep, originally it was deep meditation. Now it's sort of different forms of mental and emotional exercises. So basically, I went through a phase where last year I was meditating for almost 4 hours a day. It was messed up because growing up, I had been through a bit of depression. And then last year I still recognized there was like a sliver. There was like a sliver of it left. And to me, that was not good enough. I was in my head, I'm like, I'm going to be famous, or I'm going to be more famous. And I don't want to be famous and depressed. So I meditated for 4 hours a day until one day I woke up and I realized that I'm done. But the reason that I became done with it, so to speak, like I got over it, was not because I meditated for 4 hours a day. It was because in that last moment where I realized I was done, I learned something. And that's what I kind of do. So I guess, like, look, I'm like, do we do this now? It's a bit of a meditation. Do I want to lead you guys both through it? Like, would you be up for that? Or
Hammer it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Hammer it?
Exploring
I have
in
a
this
fucking
podcast.
great way of going through this. Let's fucking do it. I've done it with people simultaneously before, but let's do it. So, and anyone listening, just quickly, if you're driving a car, fucking stop.
If you're driving your car, pause it, and then go to a quiet, dark place.
I'm gonna get you to close your eyes. So if you're driving, you're gonna have a crash, and I haven't signed any legal things.
Right, they can't sue you for this or us.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do it while driving. Disclaimer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and drink responsibly, all that crap. So I'm gonna ask you now. This is gonna be interesting because I'm gonna be doing two things. What do you want to get out of this? What do you want to learn? Where do you want to be? That's a very important question to ask.
I think
both of you. I'm going to assume you're one person for this.
Oh, interesting.
Say that again.
You and I are one person.
We're one person for this. What do we want to get?
What would you both like to get out of this?
I want to be unapologetically me. And really step into that and stop shrinking for others.
I'm very much in the same boat because we're at a very important time in our lives where that matters more than it ever has.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a beautiful goal.
Because shrinking helps no one.
Yeah, shrinking does help no one. That is a good lesson to learn, to be honest. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes.
Okay.
And anyone else who wants this, they close their eyes too. And for this, I don't necessarily want you to open your eyes until I ask you, but I'm going to ask you both individual questions as well. So the first thing is what I want you to do is just take a few deep breaths. We're going to breathe in through your nose, and then as we breathe out, we're going to breathe out through your mouth, and so that way you can kind of relax and you don't necessarily have to, worry about the stress of the day. So we're breathing in through your nose. And then now we're breathing out through your mouth, sort of just letting things go. Now breathing in through your nose. Now again, breathing out through your mouth, just feeling your body relax. Any questions you have, they're going to be answered. Any resolutions that you want to get to, they'll be there. You don't have to worry about getting there. Now, again, breathe in through your nose one final time. And now we're breathing out through your mouth, just settling into this interesting new process. So, with your eyes still closed, one thing that I've observed is that we sort of store our emotions in our body. If there are any fears, we store it one place. If we have any joy, we store it in another place. You know, when you feel anger, you feel it somewhere, right? So my guess is that there is already a part of you that in some parts of you, like some days, is unapologetically you. I'm going to ask you now, am I crazy to assume that?
No.
Nope.
Okay. So the first thing is, and I want you to both to answer separately, is we just want to feel that part of you. Where in your body do you feel that?
Heart.
Heart.
Yeah, that's good. That's a really good sign. Because if it was anywhere else, like, it means we've overcomplicated it, or if it's in your head, what happens is sometimes we've been so hurt that now we're trying to come up with some crazy strategies. So that's a really beautiful thing. I just want to share that.
Like my chest. I feel it in my upper chest, yeah. Like.
So now moving forward, what I want you to do is I'm going to ask you a question, all right? Now, with this question, I sort of don't want you to answer, both of you. We're going to one at a time, but I want that part of you to answer. Like it's a separate being talking through you. We're connecting with that part of you, the part of you that already is self-actualized in this element. So the question is, what are some situations that you're already self-actualized in? I mean, not self-actualized, unapologetically you in. So who wants to go first?
I will say right in this moment. Like anytime I'm in front of a microphone, nothing else matters, really.
In the gym.
Yeah, I like that. Well, first and foremost, what we want to do is we're going to open ourselves up to this now. We're going to become more sensitive to this part. And this alone can be a huge landslide for some people. And this alone can start the avalanche and push that avalanche along a bit deeper. So for the next 10, 20 seconds, what we're going to do is we're just going to feel that part of you. Make it the only thing you feel. Make it you unapologetically listening to the part of you that's unapologetic. It's almost like you're sunbaking in that emotion. If there are any doubts, just let those doubts go away, because now we're just listening to, and we're almost conditioning ourselves to experience that and become more sensitive to that part of who we are. So for the next 10, 20 seconds, I just want you to feel that. And I'm going to be doing this along with you as well. So I'll tell you when to stop. So as you were feeling that, as you were just feeling that feeling inside you, you can obviously answer separately, but were there any thoughts, ideas, feelings, inspirations, colors, visions, anything that came to mind?
Just overwhelming confidence. Just like overflowing with confidence.
Yeah, I like that.
One of the things that came to mind was, other than the gym, is when I'm helping someone else and when someone's in need, I feel like I am able to fully step into that unapologetic self, to step up for them. And I feel like that's when I'm the most unapologetic, is when I'm there for helping someone else. And I thought specifically about a coaching call that I had with one of my fitness clients not long ago, because she's come such a long way, and it's just super, super inspiring to see her transform right before my eyes.
You know what? I just felt the same way that you just did. Again, with your eyes still closed, because there's a little bit more to this. Depends on where we're at, because now it's a bit more flexible with how I go about the process. But I just want to point out that when we have a good thought, it often brings with it more good thoughts and feelings and ideas and inspirations. When we have thoughts that probably aren't as good for us, they are followed by thoughts that, will potentially go down that way, unless you've been hurt by them or that kind of stuff, or you've conditioned yourself out of it. So the fact that, I think, Kevin, was it? You said you felt just overwhelming confidence through it.
Yes, sir.
It's like, I'll be like, yes, sir. You got a taste of what that's like, because truth be told, right? You don't necessarily, why do you want to be unapologetically you? Because you want to feel confident. You want to feel like you're accepted. You want to feel like you're part of there, right? Like you're welcome, or you can do what you want to do and you can say what you want to say, right? In all parts of life.
Yes.
So I would argue that really your goal is not necessarily to be unapologetically you, but it is to be confident, and we'll explore that in a second. But the reason why that you're thinking unapologetically me is the way is because every time you've done apologetically me, you felt confident. It's like chicken and egg, like what comes first, chicken or egg or whatever. It's like cart before the horse. Like which is the real thing that drives it, so to speak. Often we want the relationship because we'll be happy. Often we want the money because we think it gives us freedom. But I found that at the very first step, the very fucking minute little step, that if we flip that around, if we allow you to feel confident with unconditionally, right? Without the conditions, but I haven't said these things, you'll be naturally attracted to and drawn to the things, the situations, the people that'll allow you to feel that. And as a result, because you'll feel it naturally, you'll have a different nature to it. Hence, we talked about vibe, right? Like there's a difference between guys when it comes to talking to girls who are needy, who are they're trying to prove themselves, and those people who don't. They prove themselves, they go to the girl, they go, hey, love me. And the guys who don't, they're they have an identity thing. They're giving, they're not taking. And they like it because they get more of it. I can hear you means you're really internalizing this.
Very much.
Now, Alan, when your mind went to process things like helping someone, right? That was really beautiful, because that's your mind showing you what's your own unique pathway of least resistance. That often, this makes it really easy on your subconscious mind. If you want to practice confidence and being unapologetically you, sometimes you don't need to force yourself into situations and, it's like you're driving a car really fast and crash it into trees and all this kind of stuff, just trying to figure out how to drive a car. Sometimes the path of least resistance is to do what's already working for you. And so it's an interesting thing that your mind's connected with that, because now it's showing me that your body and mind is a little bit more sensitive to being more like that whole unapologetically you. It's like the lack of self. You're just you're just being. And so in that state where you thought when I'm helping someone, she's come a long way, I would argue first and foremost, do more of that. Obviously, you're already doing a lot, but that will then lead into other parts of your life. If I was to say to meditate over something, it's to meditate over this, the same thing that we did, do it for 10 minutes a day for at least a week, right?
Yeah.
You'll connect these dots. You'll start to see it affect. You won't, this is why I say, don't tell people what to do, tell people what to feel, because you will find that this will have a natural effect in your life very slowly, but it's those slow things that are like the drop in the pond. The drop in the pond that will echo and ripple through the rest of your life. Now, the next step that I really want to share with you guys, because I really feel like this is really key here with you guys, is more about identity than feeling. So your eyes still closed. Anyone else listening? Still close your eyes. I'm taking full control of this podcast.
I'm loving this.
This
Keep
is
going,
this
please.
is now my podcast.
We love it.
Well, but anyway, what I want to do now is there's a part of you that still probably feels like you can't be you. You can't be yourself. I don't know. Maybe after this, you're like, I'm fine. But both of you, I might like separately answer. Is there still a part of you that still is like, but what if I'm unapologetically me? Will I get hurt, or will I do like? Are there still some resistances that are getting in the way?
I feel like the fact that I'm thinking internally, and I think that most of the times I'm uncomfortable in scenarios is when I'm not being unapologetically me. So now it's starting to link up that if I do that, I think things will just be easier.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
I think that intellectually I know that shrinking for others is not going to help them. Intellectually I may know that, but I also feel like I've been in a lot of rooms in my life where I've needed to be less. So that muscle of shrinking is very trained from, I think, a lot of things, a lot of rooms and arenas in my past that maybe didn't serve my highest purpose. And I've been trying to turn the page on all of that. So I feel like I know it intellectually, but I want to know it I want it to be automatic.
Yeah. And automatic, that's the beauty here. We're all about automatic action. That part of you that still is unsure, and Kevin, I want you to do this too, because you'll do this like one at a time. I want you to do it one at a time. Normal, if I was on a proper coaching call or whatever, I would write this stuff down. So I'm not going to be doing that because whatever. But I want you to feel into that part of you now that's a bit unsure. And I'm going to be asking you both the question. I want you to answer it one at a time. Question is, who are you? Now, if that question is hard to answer, start very vaguely. I'm this. I'm a man. I'm a human. But we want to come up with some good things that are you, that support you. For example, if you say, I'm an overthinker, maybe overthinking doesn't necessarily feel good. Maybe say, I'm a thinker, that feels a bit better. So we want to come up with things of who you are, of a stronger sense of identity, because the reason why we shrink is because that part of us isn't fully formed yet. So we want to give that part of you a chance now to form a little bit outside of the situation. So when you go into the situation, you'll be a bit stronger. So my question is, I don't know who wants to go first. You guys can pick, but feeling into that part of you that might be still a bit unsure. I think, Kevin, you're like, yeah, I fucking know what to do now. Alan, you're still a bit unsure, so this is probably more directed at you. So we'll start with you. But question is, who are you?
So I know what the answer is that I want to say, which
doesn't matter what. Yeah.
So exceptional, enthusiastic, and caring are the three words that I've tried to step into.
Yeah.
Most, and kind of in that order. But the doubtful part of me that maybe has some resistance, maybe feels like maybe not enough a little, I think. Okay, so let's just start somewhere. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. That's really honest and beautiful. But let's start somewhere. So just somewhere. You don't have to solve the problem. Better yet, what are you? Exceptional, enthusiastic, and caring.
Are you saying that, or do you believe it?
I want to be it, and I
Don't
want my
tell me
actions
what
to be.
Don't tell me what you want to be. You guys are so fucking wired to look for things that you want to be that you forget what you actually are. This is about identity.
Love came to mind.
Okay, so you are love.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that? Do you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Or are you just okay? Here we go. That's somewhere. I'm going to ask you again, Alan, before we go on to Kevin. What are you?
Power.
Or who are you?
Strength.
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 It's good. One more time. Who are you?
kindness, empathy, compassion.
Are these things you're saying, or is there a part of you that agrees?
Both.
Okay. Let's just stick with one thing right now that you can agree with wholeheartedly. Don't try and push yourself. Don't try and convince yourself something that you're not fully convinced of, because if you do that, you'll make things worse for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The question I want to ask you is, and I feel your vulnerability here, this is so powerful, especially this is a podcast, like you have to recognize that you're strong through this.
Mm-hmm.
But if I ask you, who are you, and you say, I'm a human being, does that feel true to you?
Yeah.
And we want to start from there. We want to start from places that you actually agree with things. So this is good. You're digging deep. You're forming new parts of yourself right now that, that's like, that are different ways of thinking as well. Mm-hmm. So big question is, again, one more time, before we move on to Kevin, who are you?
A man. A person.
And when you said a man and a person, how did you feel? Did it feel true?
Yeah. I feel kind of euphoric right now. I haven't opened my eyes yet. I feel like you said, I feel very vulnerable, because this is parts of me that I don't always explore, because I'm very much in the conscious, in the intellectual prefrontal cortex of my mind. So I feel like this is more feeling rather than knowing, which is maybe uncomfortable for me.
when you said euphoric, I'm like, that's how it should be. This experience, when you do it, should, like, at the end of the time, and like when you really do it, it should be orgasmic. Like, when I started doing this, I felt like I was having fucking chest orgasms. Mm-hmm. I'm a very tantric person. I've explored that part of myself very well, but holy shit, was this better than sex. I swear to God. Then I did it during sex. I'm like, this is the best.
How many hours did you say? No, I'm just kidding.
But that euphoric feeling, I just want to share this with you now, with the whole thing of being unapologetically you. It starts with the parts of you that are already rock solid. No one can sway you with your whole concept of I'm a man, I'm a person. If you know it, like if someone comes up that's like, you're not a man, and it's part of your identity, and you've had time to connect with that, and you are extremely vulnerable right now, and I want to do more. If I had it my way, we'd do a whole thing. It'd be great. But if someone comes up to you and says, you're not a man, and it was your identity that you were, and you had explored that more, which probably is part of you, but it doesn't want to be something that you're trying to prove to yourself. It's something that you feel. As you said, it was a feeling thing. You'll either convince them that you are, or it won't matter. And you're like, it's like, you're not this, like
yeah, it won't matter because you just are it, so you know it. It's from a place of power versus force, right? So it's from a place.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'm with it.
Power versus force. Exactly. This is fucking what's his name? That guy, the author of Power versus Force.
Yeah, talk about an amazing book, by the way. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. It was very life changing for me too.
That's the place I want to live from, like that.
Yes.
From power. I think about Mufasa from The Lion King all the time. Like he was power. He wasn't forcing anything. I thought about that today in the gym, and I felt like that. Yeah, and I would argue that that's who he fucking is. It's just that's his identity. And it's so power in a good way, not power like evil power, but power that can like change the world. Yeah. And if there is a situation where he thinks he has to force it, he's like, probably nah, I'll just figure out a way to do it my way. Do it what's in alignment with identity. You know what I mean? Like for me, I've talked like the whole sales thing, right? I was mentioning before, and then we'll talk to you, Kevin. Sure. For me, or for example, with sales, I've spoken to many people who say, sales, you got to make people feel shit. And then I tried it, then I felt worse. And so, and I'm like, nah, I'm a good salesman. I'm a good salesman. I'm like, yeah, fuck you guys. Then I convinced them that I was a great salesman, that I've got this unique way of doing it. And it's just through helping people. Yeah. You know, there's multiple ways to do it. Who cares? That's why I'm all about helping you find your own unique way. And one of the biggest ways is to form
this part of your identity. First of all, it starts with your relationship with yourself. So how you view yourself. Then it ends with your relationship with others, about how they view you. And that will be a reflection of how you view yourself. And then we can expand this more. It's like your area of influence. We want to start with the point of space that is your fucking heart. Like that's that point. And then that expands like the sweetness that you provide. And then it's like a magnetic field, the gravitational field that you're in, so to speak.
Yeah.
So Kevin.
Yes.
You're great. You're like, yeah, fuck, let's do it. This part probably won't be as vulnerable for you. I don't know, but my question to you is: feeling that part of you that may, if there is a part of you that is unsure about yourself in any situation. Let's just go generally here. My question to you is: who are you? Same question.
I am a smart, competent, confident man who has a giant heart, and I plan on changing the world with it.
Okay. And my question is did that feel true to you, or I just got to ask this because of what we just went through. Did that feel true to you, or are you just saying that? Like,
in this moment, my heart is beating out of my chest, and I believe that wholeheartily.
Yeah, great. That means the meditation that we did, that did its effect.
I love it.
That did exactly what it was meant to do. For you, your homework, you have homework, is to just, the same thing we did before, find that part of you that already feels like you're confident, unapologetically you, and meditate on it. Like, that's it, because you're already in a place where you're ready to receive more of that.
Beautiful.
Now, this whole thing of asking yourself who you are, that will be a thing that you can do that will make you more indestructible, so to speak.
I love it.
Because, like what? I like to think both relationships and business, this is just, you can open your eyes now. Welcome back to the world of living. I like to say that both, yeah, you're like, holy shit, what just happened? Who am I? I like to say relationships, business, exercise, everything is some form of a spiritual adventure. You know what I mean? And I've gone down a number of paths. I've gone down a path where, I almost was like, I would have identified as a Buddhist for a while because I was trying to, but the ego, it gets you down dark paths and suffering. And then I asked myself the question, whoever said suffering was bad? Like the quest to remove you, like, why is that a thing? Sometimes we learn from it. And so I stopped doing that, and then I started accepting it. And then I sort of had a realization that, hey, I'll tell you what the real pinnacle was. I was really knee deep in my work, and I went to a party that I just was not ready to go for because I was so in the work mindset that going to the party just took momentum away from that. But I was speaking to this person who was so sure of themselves, and I thought to myself, like, I got to get there. I cannot be where I'm at now. I've got to take a shift. And that night, that's when I started asking myself the question, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And that's when I started having all these crazy chest orgasms, and orgasm being a very loose term, that euphoric feeling that you said you felt, Alan. Like, what did that feel like? What did that feel like for you? You said euphoric, but would you describe it in any other way?
So I think that I kind of wanted to mention this. I feel that way in the gym, and I feel that way when I'm helping people, and I feel that way when I'm podcasting and when I'm speaking. It's because I'm in flow state. Like, I'm fully engaged. I'm completely immersed and emerged in the moment. And I think that when I link up that something I'm doing is helping someone else, I feel like I'm fully immersed. And one of the things I want to mention too, the last time I felt fully euphoric and fully powerful rather than forcing things, I was at a networking event this past weekend, and I want people to really get this because I got a massage. There was a masseuse there, and it was like a 10-minute massage, and she hit, ridiculous pressure points. This was the strongest woman I've ever. Her hands are. Kevin was like, "She's stronger than you." I'm like,
yeah. You're like, marry me,
yeah, right? I couldn't believe how good I felt, and I stepped out into the kitchen, back into the networking event, and I saw it from a whole new world. Because I was at that event prior to the massage, and then after the massage, I felt like power again instead of forceful. Yeah. I felt fully in the moment, and I felt fully, like, my posture was better, my energy was better. I ended up meeting a very beautiful girl and, like, having an incredible conversation just in flow, and it felt so seamless. It felt like I didn't have to prove a goddamn thing. I was just me, and I was helping this other person, and it just flowed perfectly. So getting into my body and out of my head, I think, is going to be a huge takeaway for me from this whole experience. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you appreciating me. That by the way it's the massage brought you into your body. It also helped you like not think because she was so powerful. You're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And often it's these thoughts that get us in the way. Like, for example, when you get a glass of water, you're not thinking about, oh my God, am I worthy? Will I get the glass of water in the right way? You just fucking get the glass of water.
Mm.
And so that's basically what we want it to be like. That's why I said automatic action. We want it to be like that in the same way. And you see, this is about like your emotional state. Like, it's like, fuck relationships. It's like, that's the positive side effect. Like, that's the benefit. And that's almost what inspires you to go down this path. But the path itself is a beautiful thing. So I love that you had the massage to bring yourself to this. My whole goal, if we were to work together more, I swear to God, is to make sure you don't have to get a massage before every networking event.
Yeah, right. So I also feel this way after meditation too. So I do a 10-minute post-gym meditation, and occasionally I'll network after that because in the gym it's pretty much game time, and I don't really network much. But I feel very in my power there as well. So the question I have for you is, what are the key indicators for yourself when you feel on purpose? Like that, to me, the powerful state that I'm referring to for all the listeners is when you feel the most on purpose. Like you don't have anything to prove. You're just there to like serve and like to just be. And what are the key indicators that you're off, that you're not connected, that you're forcing things? What for you?
Well, what you said there, first of all, I just want to say that that's a very good way of expressing it, because I often say that there's two kinds of people in certain situations. You're either proving yourself or you don't need to prove yourself. You know, and often when you prove yourself, you're just trying to form that new sense of identity. The key indicators for me is, first and foremost, if I'm not questioning it, then I know I'm in the right state. If it's sustainable.
Oh, interesting. Meaning you're not going to get drained.
Yeah, not going to get drained. It also empowers you. Or if you leave it, like, for example, let's use the gym as a great example. Like, if you went to the gym going, yeah, that was good, and then you felt really fucking high after it, and then the next day you felt fucking down because you had like a sub drop, like an energy drop because you're just getting off of the high, right? That'd be really hard to sustain. So that's what I mean by sustainable. It's like, you know that it's more about who you are when it's not like a crazy wild ride. Like it might be the first time, which is why sometimes people get addicted to it. In fact, sometimes when I actually coach men on relationships and I ask them what gets attracted to someone, they often talk about, it's really funny. I think this is hilarious, and I let them know this. They often talk about how nervous it is because they're addicted to the ride, not necessarily the person in front of them. They're like, yeah, so nervous. I know I like to go and I'm nervous. It's like, no, you know you're in a fucking roller coaster when you're nervous. You're about to go on a thing.
Interesting.
So that's a key indicator, is it sustainable? Like if I was to go for a week without it, would I be able to pick up where I left off, so to speak?
Okay.
Because if you have to like force yourself into momentum, then it's not necessarily something that you are. The other thing is, does it feel good to do it?
Yeah.
That's a real big thing. Does it feel good to do it? Sometimes you might say it might feel good to say something to someone and then they get hurt and then you don't feel good. Then it's time to like ask yourself the question, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Because again, if you got hurt because you hurt someone else, that shows that your identity in that level was still trying to form. And so it got hurt because it's like, oh, am I right? Am I this way? I don't know. I like to think of it like a little plant that's trying to grow, so to speak.
So an example of that would be like you said something that was maybe outside of your highest values and it hurt someone else, and then you reflected on that and were like, oh, that's not who I want to be.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Okay.
for example, with me, with sales, you know, like it hurt me. I hurt other people trying to bring them down to be like, hey, you need my program because you're shit. Like as a exaggeration. But that also hurt me more than, I swear to God, hurt the other person.
Interesting.
And this is why this all comes from the base belief that I believe that everyone's innately good in some way. Like when you're a child, you're not trying to actively hurt other people.
Yeah.
You know, that we naturally just talk to when we're a kid, right? You didn't naturally talk to other kids.
Yeah.
So usually, depending on the person's situation, all that kind of stuff. But so that's always been my goal, is to bring people back to that sort of childlike state of that thing.
Yeah, because
so
as a child, you're fully immersed in the moment. You're just
exactly.
being you. And you want to talk about someone who's all unapologetically them. That's children.
Yes, exactly.
Interesting point.
Especially
This is blowing my mind.
Yeah, I'm glad. I got my little niece, man. I saw my little niece. At the time, she was like 1. She's learning to walk. She loves doing selfies and iPhones. And she smiled with her whole face. And I swear to God, I'm like, I've never seen someone smile like that in a very long time. And her happiness set a new standard for me of my own happiness. I was like, that's it. None of this like logical smothering yourself with baubles and putting your house in a certain way just so you can wake up and be like, yes. Because, for example, like morning routines, right? Just the shit on morning routines. Some people have morning routines because they don't feel like they're enough and they don't feel like they're worthy and they're trying to prove themselves. So they've got to trick themselves into feeling like they're good. And then other people have morning routines because they know that's what they need to do. And if they don't do it, it's like shit just doesn't get done. You know what I mean? It's like it's who they are. They don't have to prove it to themselves.
Yes. Yeah. I resonated very strongly with that. It's something you want to do, but you don't have to.
Yes, exactly. It's you want that. That's it.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to your love life and things like that, that's how you know it's something you want to do,
and you don't have to.
Yes, and you'll know you're in the right place when you don't question it.
I love that. Wow,
that's my big thing.
There's so much. I could ask you a million questions right now, Harvey. Like more than that for sure. I was listening to your podcast and you said something that blew my mind. I've heard things like this, but never put like this. When you numb yourself to the pain, you also numb yourself to the equivalent pleasure. Can you explain? Because we always talk about feedback. We always talk about, how important it is to fail or to feel pressure, to feel pain, because you're going to learn from it more often than not. Can you explain your thoughts behind that and what it means to you?
My thought is, don't fucking flagellate yourself. Like a man with a whip, like the old Catholic church or something. Like, I got to get stronger. You got a whip and you're whipping yourself. Like, got to get stronger. Got to get stronger. Got to get stronger. That concept is targeted towards people, and everything that I teach is something that I had to learn at one point. I swear to God, the hard way. That's why I'm so adamant about it.
Well, funny how that works, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the thing here is, basically, it comes from a point of there are some people who are afraid of getting rejection.
That's me.
Oh, they're afraid of getting rejected. So that fear, not only, remember we said before about the radio, right? When you're afraid of getting rejected, all you're doing is practicing that thought of being rejected.
Yeah.
And so you'll end up meeting people who reject you.
Interesting.
Yes, very interesting.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, so to speak.
And if you're afraid of getting rejected, isn't that somewhat an indicator that you need something external to be whole? For example, like your wholeness is predicated on someone else's. Like, if you're fully whole, regardless of whether or not that person says yes or no, then it won't really matter that much. It may be something you wanted to do to take a chance on because it would make you even more maybe fulfilled on some level. But it's almost like a place you don't need it. You don't need them to say yes, but you want them to, type of thing. Same idea.
Yeah. Yes. This is why I prefer to go down the identity path, because that train of thought sometimes goes to, I am whole, I don't need anything, and then you realize you need to eat, shit, and sleep, right?
Oh, yeah, okay.
And so that's why I say identity, because if it's your identity to have someone love you and respect you and all that kind of stuff, then you'll most likely make it happen.
Okay.
But when it comes to that, it's a nice way of saying it is like the more you are afraid of rejection, it's like, what's on the other side of rejection? What's on the other side of all that kind of stuff is the equivalent positive. So it's like, how do I say this? That's a concept that I've sort of, it's not necessarily it's not really applicable to you guys as much, because we've kind of done a lot of work down that pathway. We've kind of spoken a lot, but to give you more of, how do I say, I'm trying to put this in a way that makes sense in the context of what we've been talking about. It's like if you're a salesman and you want to sale and you're afraid of getting on the call or things like that, then you're going to have a bad time. If you're a weightlifter and you're afraid of the pain that you lift the weight and it hurts, you're going to miss out on the benefit of what's on the other side.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, you're avoiding the discomfort.
Yeah, which I'm sure at this point, and same thing, like this year I've been all about lifting weights and I've started that journey hardcore.
Congratulations. We
Thank you.
support
Yeah,
you
congratulations.
1000%.
Yeah.
We'll have to meet.
Yeah.
We'll have to meet up and do a. We'll do a lift.
We'll get a lift in
That'll be
Australia.
great. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like during that journey, I noticed, I actually enjoy the pain now. And now it wasn't even pain. I thought it was. Now it's just, this is the pump or this is the whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Harvey, have you heard the quote, pain is necessary for growth, but suffering is not?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. That's exactly, you put it fucking nail in the head of the whatever it is. That's exactly it, because that's what I tried to say, because I was really worried that we take this down and it's like, oh, if what I want is on the other side of pain, then all I got to do is hurt myself.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
No.
But that's the forceful thing rather than the power.
Exactly. That's the forceful thing, and that's why I really like the idea of going down the identity path more. Because as we said before, you make it part of your identity, you end up making action, and we've gone down this path, especially you, Alan, man. You were so vulnerable to this. You were both so like, let's do it. Let's just give it a go.
We went hyper-conscious, Harvey. We did.
This is what we're about, Harvey. I got rejected at the gym a couple days ago because I'm telling myself that I do not want to be the type of person that is afraid to approach women. I want my identity to be, there's a pretty girl over there, I'm going to go talk to her because that's what I do. Yeah. That's just what I do.
And that's what you want to do. Yeah. This is stirring the pot a ton, and that's why I'm so appreciative of this episode in particular, because this is very different than anything we've ever done.
For sure.
I think it's
exactly.
important
I told
to
you
stir
this. I
the pot.
warned you.
Yeah. No, I
was like,
before this episode, I told I'm rarely nervous about podcasting, networking, meeting other people, getting rejected, that kind of thing. That's not something I suffer with much. But before this episode, Kevin noticed that I was like
Alan
on
was
edge.
Alan. We kind of switched roles. I
Yeah,
feel
a
like
little
Alan
bit.
was super nervous, and I was just like, "This is okay, cool. Here we go."
I don't know how I knew, but I knew this was going to be something that was way outside my comfort zone for sure. And so far it's all all the dots are connecting, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, that's why I was sensing I'm going to have to be fully vulnerable. We also set an intention before each episode. One of them for me was going to be to pick your brain on your experience with clients. One of the questions I do want to get to is basically like, what do people try to have their persona of their relationship to be versus what you have in terms of conversations behind closed doors? I'll get to that in a second. But the other intention I set was to be a good student and to be vulnerable, because this is an arena that you are just very engulfed in. And if you were talking to us about the gym, I'd certainly be the coach here.
Yes, exactly.
But I just want to be a good student, and I appreciate that I was able to go fully vulnerable. I think that was the most vulnerable I've gotten on this podcast. And so for the listeners out there, that was explorative as hell. I hope you appreciated and enjoyed that. And now for that question, what do you see people posting on social media with their relationship and holding this image, this persona, this quote unquote mask versus what's really going on behind closed doors? Because you're in on those conversations.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, because I hate looking at social media and other people's like complaining and talking about their relationships. I find there are some people out there who love, in my opinion, I call like scraps. Like they're not necessarily living their potential when it comes to their relationships, dating or whatever, and they are in a situation where they're dating someone and they're just having the same problems over and over and over again. And they will date someone, they'll break up with someone, and then they'll complain about the problems, and they'll meet someone who's exactly the same person, the exact same thing, and have the exact same problems. It's like they didn't change anything, they didn't do whatever. A lot of people will complain. They'll use social media as a venting platform when it's the stuff that they should have. Like one thing that I do with people is get people more sensitive to like what things going on in their relationships. So that way it doesn't become like a big confrontation thing. So some people are afraid of confrontation. And so as a result, then they vent to their friends or they vent to social media, and all they do is spread the pain and they don't deal with the thing, Sometimes it's about soothing. Sometimes you just got to fucking talk about shit and have your partner willing to talk about it back,
Absolutely.
A lot of people will try and it's another way of looking at it, is like I call like bargaining with the universe, where they're like, okay, if I be a good enough person, maybe someone will like me, or they try and do a trade. So it's like they're constantly trying to alter themselves and trade parts of who they are, or they're trying to prove to themselves, or then they go to certain events or rituals or all this kind of stuff, or they do yoga because they're trying to, like, it's not even related to what they want to do. Like, they do yoga because they want to feel good in their relationships, but it's like they're still not dealing with the fucking problem. Now, what happens behind closed doors is exactly this. Exactly what we did. When people open up, then they start to really feel like it's like there's more to it. There's more to it than what's going on. And honestly, one thing that I point out with people is like, your relationship with other people will only ever be as deep as your relationship with yourself.
Interesting. I like that quote a lot. That's definitely something that I'm going to take away from this.
I'm glad.
One thing I really wanted to ask you as well. So, as a fitness coach, I notice very strong patterns amongst my clients, and their relationship with food, their aversion to tracking, energy balance, calories in versus calories out, their aversion to stepping on the scale, right? Their avoidance of feedback. What are the patterns in your arena, like that just keep jumping off the page? Like, because this podcast is, if you don't know why something is the way that it is, you don't know how to shift it. So you got to diagnose the real root cause first, which is kind of what you just did with us with our identity.
Yeah, because I was like, we got to feel it, not think it, right?
Yeah.
So now we're getting more into the mind here, but I will, some of the key patterns that I see, as I said before, people not necessarily willing to confront their partners. One big thing is then they choose to attack their partner. So they're like, you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this, and that's a big thing. Again, I'm not someone who pays attention to problems. Like, I don't see it as things to be attacked. I'm like, okay, we'll just get them to feel the right things, and it works. That's why it's a very hard question for me to answer.
Okay.
Another thing, I did have a big one that I wanted to share. What was the question again? What was the question?
So the question is patterns. Yeah, like what jumps off the page? Like, I notice with my fitness clients, there's very similar patterns of what's holding them back from what they really want.
Yeah.
What patterns do you see in relationships?
One pattern is that people will, I get a thought and I lose it. That's how much I don't pay attention to problems. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
It'll come back.
One thing is that, it will. It's, this is the hardest question I've ever asked.
So you've already said confront. People avoid confrontation, so that's avoiding feedback. I wrote that down.
Yes,
they attack their partner rather than self-reflection. That's another way of avoiding feedback, right?
The one big pattern is they don't see problems as a good thing. And what I mean good thing, I'm not saying that it's like, you should love your problems and all this kind of stuff, but
an opportunity to shift, right?
It's not an opportunity to shift. It's an opportunity to go deeper.
Ooh.
It's like, imagine if you've been dancing a dance your entire life, right? You're a hip-hop dancer. And suddenly you are you meet someone who's a ballet dancer.
Okay.
You're creating a new dance together. You're gonna fucking step on each other's toes.
Oh, interesting. Great analogy.
But
yes.
The key is to look at it not in the way that you're like, oh, are we compatible? Are we not? It's an example of how you're just creating a new dance together.
And both of you are now dancing in a new way you wouldn't have otherwise without the other person.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah. And for example, it's the same thing. Oh, and the other thing is fucking trying to please everyone else. Like, that's a big thing.
Pleasing.
Like, and it's the same thing. For example, this is why you guys are going down the unapologetic path, because you're a couple guys trying to fucking talk to girls, right? Can you figure out the exact formula that is going to work for every single girl on the planet? Now, some guys would say, yes, you can, and they'll dedicate their lives to it. I was one of those motherfuckers until I realized, hey, it's impossible because everyone is different. Trying to please someone else is like a moving target.
Interesting.
So the big thing here is, again, it's the whole identity thing. This is why I say, like, we're not necessarily trying to not please other people, but what we're trying to do is come from a place of identity where it's your natural thing, because then you'll naturally form, like, you'll be able to tell, like, someone doesn't like spending time with you. You'll adjust, you'll course correct. That's where we are humans. That's I would say, like, our amazing ability. We are course correcting super beings. Like, you can't walk, so you lean a bit left, you fall over, you lean a bit right. Pretty soon you're a toddler who can walk. You're course corrected. You're driving a car, a little bit left, a little bit right, all this kind of stuff. What most people want, here's the big thing. Here's the big thing. What most people want is all the answers before it happens.
Very true.
And so,
Yeah, we talk about failing forward constantly and being in the
failing
arena
forward.
and being able to have the difficult conversations and being willing to quote unquote fail. Like if a relationship didn't work out, you're going to be more clear on what you do want, who you are, what you don't want, who you're not. And I think that a lot of people avoid the arena altogether because it's scary, because it's the heart, you know? I mean, we've all been hurt and maybe we don't want to get hurt again, but like Kevin started with this, it's what was the quote again? It was basically your ultimate pain is also...
When you numb yourself to the pain, you also numb yourself to the equivalent pleasure.
Yeah.
yes.
Interesting. One thing I want to jump onto for the listeners, and then you, yeah, absolutely. Kevin has another question. But one thing I wanted to bring to the listeners is when you're pleasing others, this is the part that I think Kevin and I have gotten to in our lives. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but I think we've started to really realize that pleasing others by stepping outside of who we really are not only hurts us, but it hurts everyone else we can help.
Yes, exactly.
And it's not a powerful place to be. It's a place of, you know, there's a difference between stepping outside your comfort zone in an effort to become more of who you are and to grow versus to like go do things that just aren't congruent with your highest values at all to please others. Like, that is so fucking key, man. I feel euphoric right now because I just feel like I had a breakthrough. So, Kevin, what's your next question?
So, Harvey, we're running out of...
I want to go about my question, brother. I just want to put in there just quickly. I would argue it's the difference between, say, for example, you're about to sleep with someone, right?
Yep.
It's the difference between trying to give them a good experience and you like thinking to yourself, I'm a good lover, I'm going to give them a good experience.
Interesting.
It's a subtle difference. You've read Power versus Force. They talk about arrogance versus confidence and that huge fucking list, right?
Yes.
I love that list.
Yeah.
I read that list to so many people, actually, when I first read that.
Amazing book.
That's the subtle difference. It's the difference between trying to make someone else happy or knowing that you make other people happy.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a big difference.
Powerful.
So there's a... Go ahead.
Yeah.
There's a question.
No, what were you going to say?
There's a...
Yeah.
There's a question...
You go first, yeah? I'm trying to let you speak, man.
So, Harvey,
awesome.
there's a question I like to ask everybody, and we're running out of time, so I want to make sure, I want to get it out. I want to respect your time. What do you hope to accomplish before you die?
What do I accomplish before I die? I think I fucking did it.
Okay, what is it?
Just be happy.
Interesting.
Here's a story.
Yeah.
So I used to. Where do I start the story? Basically, I was touring 2015. That's when I was working just with men. Before I started working, I switched teams, working for women with women.
Yeah.
I came back because I was thinking to myself, I'm not happy. I got to figure this out. And during that time, my mum went on a holiday. She went to Nigeria because my brother was working in Nigeria. And that was when my brother had that baby that I mentioned, my little niece, Hazel.
Yep.
And so my mum came back. And during that time, I'd sort of figured out how to help myself to be happy and sort of unconditionally happy and things like that. Mm-hmm. And my mum had this huge conversation with me. It was the first heart-to-heart talk we'd had in a very long time. And she was saying, you know, she's come from like lower class in India. And I'm half Indian. Lower class in India. She's come to Australia. She's got a house, multiple houses, children, grandchildren now. Everyone's well off. Everyone's doing their own thing, right? Mm-hmm. Then she asked herself, why am I still not happy? And so that was my big gift that I was able to give to her. I was able to help her through that. And I showed her it was about her thoughts and stuff like that. Then all of a sudden she started renovating the house, something she's wanted to do for the past 20 years because her internal scape had changed, her landscape had changed. So suddenly she's changing her living space to match her internal space. Mm. But the reason why I'm telling you the story was because then she spoke to my grandmother about a very similar thing. Like I had given her this, and then so she spoke to her grandmother about this, my grandmother about this, her mother. And apparently what my grandmother does is she freaks out about death. And she freaks out about it, and she realizes it's because of her thoughts, and she goes, she's just got to stop herself from thinking, and she just goes for a walk or something like that, and then she calms down. She goes, it's going to be okay, and all that kind of stuff. And when my mum told me that story, I literally went to my room and I started crying because I recognized in that point that that's probably not going to something I'm going to fear. It's like I'd sort of figured out how my mind works, figured out how my heart works, figured out how it all works. And so anything from this point, everything else is a bonus for me.
That's deep. That is some deep shit, Harvey. I like that.
Yeah, that is deep, man. This whole episode has been super deep.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I love it. This is laughing our asses off, too. I dig it. I do have one question that I want to... I've set an intention recently to always ask the guests. I've asked this several times in the past.
Harvey, I expect you to mess with him like you mess with me. Just saying.
Don't preface the question here. No. Say it from the heart. One, I believe that there's a part of us, and you mentioned this earlier, kinda. You alluded to it. When we're a kid, we're not worried about what people think. Like, that's our fullest, unapologetic self. I believe there's a part of us that never changed. Because we grow, we transform, we evolve, but there's a part of us that never changed, right? So, I wear a necklace. It's what I call True North. For you, what part of you, in your deepest self, never changed?
The part of me that you're talking to right now is raw, enthusiastic, really silly, but also extremely serious, a bit stylish, but also not. a part that cares about people, a part that gets so excited, so rawly excited when other people are happy, and you know what, through my life, I listened to everyone else that said, no, be something else, all that kind of stuff. And so for me, it's been a journey to come back to that. And every day I strengthen that. Every day I strengthen that more and more and more and more and more. But I don't think I'm strengthening it. I think I'm just discovering it within myself.
Harvey, your ability to fear no judgment and to be unapologetically you is jumping off the page on this episode. I mean, to just the amount of laughs, the amount of just quirky things you've said.
Thank you.
It really has inspired me to be more me. Because I think you're awesome, and I'm really glad that you came on the show and shared who you are with everybody, because I think it'll inspire everyone to be a little bit more unapologetically them and stop fearing constantly what other people think, because you're not doing them a favor by being less.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to argue that maybe you were somewhat unapologetically you when you reached out and said, hey, do you want to be on my fucking podcast?
Oh, yeah.
So, it's a two-way street is what I'm trying to get at. And it's an honor for me to be here. And if I had it my way, honestly, I'd be working with you guys both. We'd go fucking deep. And if you guys want that, we can talk about it. But regardless, this has been an amazing I've really enjoyed this, actually. This is definitely a highlight of my day today.
Harvey, we really enjoy you. And is there anything, so I want you to plug your website, plug your Instagram page, plug away for where people can find you, how they can get you to coach them and all that happy jazz.
All that kind of crap. So we have, I have a cheesy Instagram. You already heard it. Get him hooked. My website is Get Him Hooked. The shit that I give out is universal. It's called marketing, people. I'm speaking to women, people who identify as women who are interested in men. But if you watch my content and read my stuff, it's all fucking genderless. Like, if I need to talk about gender, I will be talking towards women who are interested in men. But my Instagram is 52 or 53% men. It's Get Him Hooked. And they're all men who are more than half are men following me. So that's that. I'm currently, if you want to work with me, you guys can apply for a free call, which is kind of like this, except probably a little bit less of a podcast.
And thousands of people aren't going to hear it.
Yeah.
You can do that on gethimhooked.com, or I've made a special URL that goes straight to that part of my website called, you can go to www.loveonmyterms.com. That goes straight to the part of my website that says, apply for a free coaching call. Everyone gets one because I'm a fucking drug dealer of love. You get the first hits free.
Just giving out cigarettes outside the stadium. No. But you're selling love, man. I dig it. You're not selling cigarettes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Beautiful thing.
The other thing I do want to mention is a new program that I'm working on.
I saw a post about this.
So I used to work one-on-one with people. With men, I'm still going to be doing one-on-one stuff. So this is my new women's program that I'm going to be working on. So if you're a woman listening to this, you're going to want to listen. But if you're a guy listening to this, just know that there's something like this in the future. But if not, we can work one-on-one together. Basically, I call it, the final name is Love/Life Transformation, the 8-week Love/Life Transformation. It's basically an amazing coaching program that I am giving you, as far as I'm concerned, the whole fucking book on love. We go what we did here deeper. Like, we got I'm not going to bring up the fucking content, but there's a week on your identity. There's a week on being enough, feeling enough. There's a week on different social dynamics. Like, for example, how you view a group of people is often how that people receive you. And so we go deep into that. In the meditation that we kind of did now, we do that 10 times. Like, and we go every day, there's a thing. And then there's also really like a group coaching call that we do once a week through that program. So I'm really excited to get that out. I'm looking for 10 beta testers. It should be starting in September or middle of September. So far, I've got the first person. Someone jumped on it straight away. If you're interested, you can still go to Love on My Terms. You can apply for a call through there. And if you're interested in that, we can talk about it. And if any guys are interested in working with me, just still go to Love on My Terms. Fucking apply for a call, and we'll set up something very special for you instead.
I love it.
Yeah, that's it.
Sounds good.
I think, Harvey, you are next level, as I said earlier.
Yeah,
and
I like that.
You dropped so much knowledge during this episode.
Absolutely.
We will definitely be in touch for sure because your knowledge is priceless, and we appreciate you coming on and sharing it with everybody today and adding a massive amount of value to our listeners.
Yeah,
I'm happy to. Yeah, thank you for having me. It's fucking awesome, and this has actually been the best podcast I've been on. I've been on a number, and I would say this is the best because of your raw enthusiasm and your willingness to learn, and just you got your shit together.
Thank you so much for saying that.
Yes.
Thank you so much. One thing for the listeners before we go, this is an arena that's scary. It's painful. We've all had our heart broken. We got to jump back in the ring. We got to be open-minded, and having guidance in this area is super, super important, and don't avoid the pain. Kevin has been rejected several times
this week,
and he feels euphoric afterwards because he knows he's being his full self.
The pain of regret outweighs greatly the pain of being rejected. Trust me.
Yeah, and that's the takeaway. Yeah. So thank you, Harvey, for being you and doing awesome things and helping people in this arena that has so much uncertainty and doubt, and you're giving people strength in that arena. Thank you for coming on the show. And
that's all right.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
And I'd really recommend for you guys, both of you, to re-listen to this podcast and see your own thought pattern through the coaching session, through what we did.
That's a great idea. We will for sure.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks for having me.
Right on, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Harvey Hooke. We are signing off.
Woo!
Bye.
Talk to you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for listening to another episode of the Hyper Conscious Podcast.
Going hyper-conscious will absolutely change your life because if you understand why something is the way it is, now you have the power to change it. If you going hyper-conscious with us has changed your life in any way, please share this episode with one of your friends because the more people that go hyper-conscious, the better this world's going to be for everybody.
And if you would kindly leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that would help us make more people hyper-conscious, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Thank you.
Bye. Sadu.
Sadu. What's Sadu?
Which ear? Left ear, inner ear out. So the way.
Yeah, I knew that was wrong.
Which one is it? This one here?
Also, if you need to go to the bathroom during the episode, we can hold it. If you need to go to the bathroom during the episode, we can hold down the fort.
Wow, Judge. What happened, man? Oh, my love. Like that. What happened? Maybe we listen to this and make sure it's not fucking dog shit.
Right. Good job.
A little bit longer than usual, but I think we're great.
We're great.
I think we're great. I'm ready for my close-up.